My father looked my pregnant sister dead in the eyes in front of our entire neighborhood and screamed, "You are not my daughter anymore." My mother actually threw her suitcase onto the front lawn. And while all the neighbors watched from their driveways, my sister looked at me with tears streaming down her face and whispered, "Please, don't let them take my baby away." That was the moment I realized my family wasn't what I thought it was, but what I'd discover 3 years later would destroy everything.
Let me back up. My parents were the kind of people who cared more about their image than their actual kids. I know that sounds harsh, but it's true. My dad was a regional VP at a pharmaceutical company. My mom volunteered on every church committee in the county. They drove a Range Rover. They had a house with a pool in a neighborhood where everyone knew everyone's business. My sister Emma was the golden child. Seriously, she got straight A's. She was homecoming queen. She went to an Ivy League school. My parents literally had Emma's baby photos in their office at work. They brag about her to literally everyone. Me, I was fine being the quiet one. I didn't mind a shadow. But then Emma came home for summer break during her junior year at Yale, and she was pregnant. I'll never forget the moment my dad found out. He was in his study. Emma went in there, closed the door, and I heard him start shouting before she'd probably even finished her first sentence. "What did you do? Who is the father? Do you understand what you've done to this family?" My mom literally fainted. I'm not exaggerating. She actually collapsed and had to be carried to the couch. And the worst part? Emma refused to tell them who the father was. "I can't," she kept saying. I can't tell you." This made everything worse. My parents went crazy. They called her every name you can imagine. They destroyed her acceptance letters from graduate programs. My dad literally ripped up photos of her from around the house. My mother cried for 3 days straight. But here's the thing nobody talks about. They weren't crying because they were sad about Emma. They were crying because they were terrified of what people would think. "What will we tell the church?" my mother kept asking. "What will people say at the country club?" My father kept pacing. They literally never once asked Emma if she was okay. Not once. They never asked if she was scared. They never asked if she needed help. All they cared about was the family reputation. The neighbors started asking questions. People at church were gossiping. My parents started telling people that Emma was taking a semester off for personal reasons. They were lying to protect themselves. And Emma, she just shut down. She stopped eating. She lost weight. She would sit in her room for hours staring at nothing. The girl who used to laugh all the time barely smiled anymore. That's when I realized something. My parents didn't love Emma. They loved the idea of Emma, the perfect daughter. And the second she wasn't perfect anymore, she was invisible to them. One night, about 2 weeks after her parents lost it, I found Emma standing in the rain on our front lawn. She had a garbage bag in each hand. Those bags held everything she owned. She'd packed them herself because our parents had told her to get out of their house. They literally kicked out their pregnant daughter. I was 17 years old, and I'd never felt rage like that before. I went outside in the rain and looked at her. This girl I grew up with, my sister, soaking wet, holding trash bags with her life inside them, 6 months pregnant and shaking. "Come inside," I told her. They said she started. I don't care what they said. "You're not staying out here." And I meant it. That night, I did something that changed everything. I went into my parents' room, and I told them exactly what I thought of them. I told them they were selfish. I told them that choosing their reputation over their daughter was the most disgusting thing I'd ever witnessed. I told them that I didn't recognize them anymore. And then I told them I was leaving too. I took Emma to my college roommate's apartment. She let us stay in her guest room. It wasn't much, but it was safe. It was warm. It was a place where nobody cared that Emma was pregnant and unmarried. My parents didn't call. They didn't text. They didn't reach out. Nothing. The next 3 years were hard. I'm not going to lie to you and say they were some beautiful journey of self-discovery. They were exhausting. I was working a retail job while taking online classes because I'd left my university. I was making $14 an hour. Emma got a job at a coffee shop, but she had to stop working when she went into labor. We split a 1-bedroom apartment. I slept on the couch. She got the bedroom because she was pregnant. I I remember the nights where I'd be lying there listening to her cry in the other room, and I'd wonder if I'd made a mistake. Should I have just let her figure it out on her own? Was I helping, or was I just making things harder? But then our nephew was born. His name is Lucas, and when I held him for the first time, everything made sense. This beautiful, innocent baby boy hadn't done anything wrong. He was perfect, and his own grandparents didn't even know he existed. Emma was depressed for the first year. Really depressed. Like, she'd go days where she barely got out of bed. I'd come home from work, and she'd be sitting in the dark holding Lucas, just staring at nothing. I got a second job working nights at a warehouse. Weekends, I'd nanny for families in the neighborhood to make extra money. I gave up dating. I gave up going out with friends. I gave up basically everything because my sister and my nephew needed me. There were nights I cried in my car on my lunch break because I was so exhausted. But slowly, things got better. Emma started therapy. She got a better job at a marketing firm. We moved to a nicer apartment with 2 bedrooms. Lucas started preschool. Emma smiled again. She actually laughed one day, and I remember stopping everything I was doing just to hear it, because I'd missed that sound so much. She became this strong, resilient woman. A single mom who was killing it at her job, raising an amazing kid, and rebuilding her life. I was so proud of her. And still, our parents never called. Here's the thing, though. There was something Emma never talked about. Something she refused to discuss, no matter how much I asked. The father. I'd ask her occasionally, gently, not pushing. Do you ever think about reaching out to him? Does he know about Lucas? She'd just go quiet. She'd change the subject. Sometimes her hands would literally shake a little. I can't, she'd say. It's too complicated. You don't understand. Then help me understand, I'd say. But she never would. There was a photo in her nightstand drawer. I only saw it once by accident when I was looking for a hair tie. It was a picture of Emma and some guy at what looked like a fancy country club. They looked happy. She looked younger. Happier. When I asked her about it, she grabbed it out of my hands so fast. Don't, she said. Don't ask about this. Ever. I'd never seen her that upset. So I stopped asking. But I wondered. I wondered constantly about who this guy was. Why he didn't know about Lucas. Why Emma was so protective of that secret. And I wondered if our parents knew something that I didn't point 3 years past. Lucas was 4 years old. Smart as a whip. Funny. Kind. The sweetest kid you'd ever meet. Emma was thriving. She'd gotten a promotion. We'd saved enough for a down payment on a small house. Life was actually good. Finally good. Our parents never called. Not once. We saw them at the grocery store once, and my mother literally pretended she didn't see us. She turned her cart around and went to a different aisle. That hurt more than the yelling ever did. But Emma and I had built our own life, our own family, and we didn't need them anymore. I really thought that was it. I thought that was the end of the story. I was wrong. It was a Saturday morning in June. I was making pancakes for Lucas. Emma was in the shower. Everything was normal. Then I heard Lucas run to the window. Mommy, there's a really big fancy car outside. I didn't think anything of it. People parked on our street all the time. But then there was a knock on the door. Not a friendly knock. An official knock. I opened the door and there were 2 people standing there. An older man in an expensive suit, and a woman who looked like she'd never eaten a carb in her entire life. I didn't recognize them immediately, but then the man spoke. We're looking for Emma Richardson. My stomach went cold. Who's asking? I said. The woman stepped forward. I'm Victoria Hartwell, and this is my husband, Charles Hartwell. The name meant nothing to me. But then she said, we're here about our grandson. Emma came out of the shower when she heard voices. She saw them through the living room window and literally went pale. Oh my God, she whispered. Oh my God, no. Who are they? I asked. I can't, she said. I can't do this. But it was too late. I let them in because I was confused and curious, and honestly, I needed to know what was happening. They came inside like they owned the place. Victoria looked around our living room like it was the smallest thing she'd ever seen. Charles kept clearing his throat awkwardly. Lucas had no idea what was happening. He just thought they were visitors. Hi, he said politely. Do you want to see my dinosaur collection? Victoria's eyes actually filled with tears when she looked at him. May we sit? Charles asked. We all sat down. And then Charles said something that made everything click into place. Emma, we know about the boy. We know about Lucas, and we need to understand why you never told us. Emma looked like